Hi everyone, my name is Courtney Maccia. I am a first grade general education teacher at Pan American Academy Charter School. It is a charter school in the Kensington area of Philadelphia. The school that I work in is a bilingual school, so my students learn half the day in English and half of the day in Spanish. Some of my hobbies are I love going skiing in the winter, I love reading, especially in the summer when I have the time to do it, and cooking with my husband. I was married 2 summers ago, and I just got a puppy this past summer, so I've been hanging out at home with my puppy up until now when school started again. My experiences in the past with online classes was I had a hybrid class when I was in undergrad where we had 1 day a week where we were face to face in the classroom, and the other day of the week we had to do work online. And I've also had two online classes so far for grad school. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was that good teaching is good teaching. They were saying that whether you're in a brick and mortar school or an online education, that good teaching is good teaching. I agree that all students will benefit from good teaching no matter where they are. If they have a good teacher, they are able to learn. Some things, though, that I found that might be an overgeneralization was the teacher's familiarity. So if they feel more comfortable with a brick and mortar school, they might not be the best teacher in online teaching, and vice versa. Someone who is amazing at doing online teaching, that's really their thing, they might not feel as comfortable in a brick and mortar school, making their good teaching not as good in a different environment. Also, the student preference. Some students, they thrive being inside of an actual classroom, sitting inside of those walls, knowing that in that spot they're doing this work and they're learning. Some students, though, that's not what they need, and they need to be inside of their home or somewhere else to get a good education. So whether their teacher is amazing, if the setting isn't good for them, they're not going to be learning as much. Also, their environment. So like I was kind of goes along with the student preference and teacher familiarity. If the student doesn't feel comfortable with where they're learning, or let's say they're doing learning at home and there's a lot of things happening around their house, maybe they have construction outside that's distracting them, or they don't really have a spot to have as their learning station, it might not be the best, even if their teacher is the most amazing teacher ever. If the environment around them isn't conducive to their learning, it's going to be very hard for that student to learn. I really would love to learn about more the course content that's described as something that's a setback or a struggle for online teaching. I was interested to hear how it's decided, since a lot of this is very personal for each student. How is it decided what each student learns? And I know they were talking about making groups on the YouTube video of how he can make small groups. So how are those small groups decided? Is it based on things that they've learned? Is it based on what it's been decided that that student can learn, or what they've learned in the past? So that they kind of go together, is how the content is decided and how the students are grouped together. So how are they in a class? How are those decided? Are they mixed by grades because one student is reading on a higher level than the other? I'm really interested to see how that all comes together and how that could be more difficult with an online class. While watching the cyber school commercials, I noticed a lot of things that do fit in. The K-12 commercial, they really hit on standard F, which is the individualized learning. They talked about how each student has their own plan of what they're going to be learning and how the progress is going to happen and what the students will be doing. I noticed with the Connection School, they hit on standard A, which was student success. They really talked about how the different students, what they learned. I saw one of the students holding up a sign that said, "You wouldn't believe my grades." Another student was holding up one that said, "I've achieved so much." That really showed me that they're hitting on that student success. And they also were hitting on the student interaction. Some of the students were holding up signs that said, "I've made so many friends in this." So that shows me that they're hitting on that student interaction, that student to student talking, because they're making friends while they're inside of this class. And the last one that I watched was the Carpe Diem class. They were also talked about individualization. I did notice, though, that the Carpe Diem commercial, I realized that it is a commercial, so they're not going to go too in depth, but it seemed like a bunch of buzzwords that they were saying. They just kept saying, like, individualized instruction, you don't have to go to school. So it wasn't really explaining the benefits of it, just kind of using like these buzzwords to get you to really go onto their website. I'm sure maybe their website goes into more detail about how they would hit on some of the standards, but it just seemed like kind of loose to me. So that's my overview of the class so far. I'm really excited to get started in this course.